Want to know where major Asia was? Find the major cities that were given for Asia in ancient times. Once you find Miletus there, once you find Antioch there, once you find Tyre sitting there, once you find Tyre's old name Korah sitting on the mainland where Tyre was at first, once you go around and find Akkad, that's now Karaka, and you see these other places and see Guyana, which they changed the name of, was Sayana or Sinai. Once you find the places, then you know where the ancient writings are talking about. And now you're ready to discuss and have a lively and fruitful discussion. Don't get tied up in terms because you don't know your terms until you go back in your geography.
On that note, I want to ask. No, I don't want you to rest on that. I want to actually open up and start the discussion because you made a beautiful case. Now I want to bring on more scholars that have wonderful insight on the narrative that you're dropping and get supported with additional information. As I would like to add that when you talk of Maryland, you're also speaking about Maryland, and at the south of Maryland is where they have the District of Columbia at, where you said your research ended, and I explained to you that even when I went on the Egypt on the Potomac tour with Anthony Browder, and he laid out how they mimicked the entire, layout of D.C., of course, charted by Benjamin Banneker Bay. There's a direct connection, and based on what you're presenting on this particular, and what you already have presented in the book, you make those connections, you know what I'm saying, where the land can be walked over from one end to the other extreme. So I want to open these lines up right now and bring on our esteemed special guest, Brother Taj Tariq Bey.
It's awesome, brother.
Peace, brother. Peace, Hakeem. Peace, Taj. Islam. Peace. Islam.
Yeah,
peace, brother. Peace. Indeed.
Peace, brothers.
Yes, brother. Indeed. I will leave it at, I'm going to open the floor up. I know, Taj, you've repeatedly spoken on the more ancient aspects of this land that we call the Nexum and its connection to various empires and kingdoms. Is there anything that you would like to add on to the information presented tonight?
Islam.
Islam.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can indeed.
All right, Islam.
Yes, brother.
All right. I'm really proud and honored listening to the brother because he is indeed an honorable spirit of our ancient forefathers, bringing the truth to light. And he's also exposing much of the information that has been preserved in attic chambers and not revealed to the public. And this is also some of the information that CMB registered in the Library of Congress so that the COINTELPRO people who infiltrated tried to destroy the temples so they could not destroy some of those lessons. That's why he registered in the Library of Congress under the Clock of Destiny, which is really Circle 7. Now, and this is also why you see some of those who know the truth will try to dismiss him or put him down or try to act like he was doing something different from the Udrali in order to hide the fact that he was revealing the Adam lesson. Yeah. Is that this is just like the brother said, this is why the largest base for the largest world is where? In Mexico City. And the Europeans dismantled it. It's another one of their Masonic secrets. This is also why George Washington's Grand Masonic Museum is located in Washington, D.C., but actually right off the outskirts, and they name it after Alexander the Great, which is Alexandria, Virginia, where Chief Justice Ben Bays says is in a glass case, which we've shown to people many times, and which I'm sure the brother knows, and why the layout honorable to our people and producing such great and grand literature in order to free the generations to come. And can't wait to hear more from him.
Thank you, indeed.
Peace, yes. This is Brother Hakeem. Should I hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, yes, Brother Horace Butler, it's been a long time. I've been looking to meet with you for a long time. I had your book for a while. And, I just want to, say it's a good thing that brothers and sisters are coming up to speed now with a lot of this information. One of the things I wanted to ask you was, do you have like an atlas of maps? Because a lot of what you present will be very good if people had a visual of it and they can actually see it. Because many of our people, as you know, is not very good in terms of geography and chronology. And I was going to say, if not, I would love to, possibly even, work with you on something like that as a project to put together some type of atlas of various maps, laid out chronologically so people could see what you're saying in terms of the movements of the people, the different things that were taking place, and so on and so forth. Because now's the time for all this to come unveiled now, and we see this documented visually for our people so they can really see this.
Right. That's been the one large deficiency that has been called to mind, that I should have made that map. After the 12 years of looking through the ancient literature to find where the cities were, I had them. And I knew where the places were. But I wanted to be more exact. I wanted to get as exact as I could so that when the brother said, here is Asia, I didn't want it to cut off. They would hold the maps. They would have the lands there, but they would cut it and then reattach it. And when you look at it on the map, you say, well, wait, I don't see any land on the planet that looks like this. But you have to understand that straight line there on that map is the section where you take it off, and here is Upper Egypt, and you put it where it needs to be, and then that leaves you with Lower Egypt there. It's like that. They had the maps coded. Even the ancient Roman map, called now the Pullinger map, it would show you where the cities were. It would show you where the regions were. But if you didn't know how to put that map together, you wouldn't know where these cities actually were in the Americas. Because and West Africa is so close to South America that it made it very easy for them to have commerce back and forth. It used to be that I was running the brothers and sisters who would laugh at the assertion that Africans were in the Americas as early as 20,000 and 22,000 B.C., and they said it immediately. They would say, well, that must have happened when the land was all joined together as one land, Pangea. And I just have to shake my head at the ignorance of it. They didn't question how Columbus would get on the ship and come to the Americas. Never questioned. Never. They said, Vikings, nobody. Everybody could, as long as you were not black, you could be in a ship and nobody would question you being in the ship. But as soon as you put a black in a ship, as soon as you put an African in a ship, then there was a problem. Well, how did they get there? And I would hear young brothers, putting their arguments up, and they were saying, well, Egypt came over in reed boats like it was proven. No, the heck no, they didn't. These brothers knew how to make seaworthy ships, and when rocks fly out, when that book finally hit, then the archaeologists started saying, well, you know what? Okay, now that it's out, we're going to show you what we found. We've got the remains of the wooden ships that ancient Egypt was using to go across the sea, not down the Nile, but across the sea.
Right.
So they started letting those discoveries out that were on the east coast of the Egypt and Northeast Africa. They've not shown the ones that were here in the Americas. You want to see a ship here in the Americas? Go to Banampach, go into that end room, and you'll see a man standing there with lines going across the wall above his head, and you don't know it, but that's Agamemnon's ship that's been painted there. And nobody has told anything about it. I gave it to National Geographic 2 years ago. So they went in and got the Black King out of it and announced that story earlier this year, but they still didn't announce to you that this was an African city and that the discovery came from African records that showed this city, showed those paintings, and named every one of those black painted people in that temple to be the ancient Greeks and ancient Trojans of antiquity. All black. Trojans, all black. Greeks, all black. Agamemnon sitting there, black, with his Zulu, with his Zulu clothing on. And Achilles right behind him with his. And that's Achilles' son whose tomb they went into and pulled those skeletons and started messing with them and all that crap. That was Achilles' son buried in that tomb, as the ancient African writings told. That's how they found the tomb. Because I gave them the ancient writings to try to start getting this stuff published into our schools so our kids could get this information, and it wouldn't just be a couple of brothers on the corner in Harlem, debating about knowledge. They could start having it in the textbooks, but apparently that was not good enough. So even after they found the tomb to verify the writing and what the writings were said, you still didn't hear the story about the blacks and the Empire, which is ancient Delphi. Mexico. And so, brother, we're working on the map. But as I talk, this interview and others, I steadily give you more cities so you can kind of get an idea of where they were. Tonight, I give you Tyre. The last interview, I gave you Troy. I want you to know the landscape in case, my breaks or whatever, you'll at least have the cities there.
Right. And you had mentioned in prior that you was going to write another book where you was going to go deep into Solomon and David and so on and so forth. Did you do that book yet?
That book is being shot. It's already out there to try to get a deal on that thing with the major publishers, because I see now a lot of my brothers and sisters, the book is not major until New York tells them it's major. So, it'll be a book on the side unless Harper Collins or somebody throws it out, and then it's a great book. It's the #1 bestseller, and it must be true. So we need to move off of the back shelf where they came before Columbus and get up there where Random House should have put Doc Ivan Van Sertima's work.
That's right. Well, I'm looking forward to it. And also, if you ever need any assistance in putting it into ebook format or whatever the case may be, let me know. But it's very important that this information get out. I know you're familiar with Leo Weiner's books dealing with Africa and the discovery of America, those 3 volumes. And in it, he just goes into great detail exactly what you're speaking about, the whole connection with West Africa and Mexico, even in terms of the garments. And he mentioned in there Sahagun, and what these is that, like you said, a lot of the history is in those writings of those early Spanish conquistadors and priests of the priesthood. And C.M. Beatty, who was one of the Moorish teachers, spoke about the whole connection and everything being over here. And the elder said that he had got a lot of the information from a Catholic priest while in Mexico University. And I thought that was very interesting.
Absolutely.
Now, here in New York, there's a Jesuit library. I don't want to say the name of it because I want to get that information out of there before they
hide it.
Exactly, because you know how they have it in these special collections. And I've been through it. A lot of it's still in Spanish. It needs to be translated, and the pages are falling apart. I mean, it's literally so brittle. It's just turning to powder in my hand. I said, you know what? I don't even want to damage it no further. I want to get together with a Spanish brother I know and have them begin to translate some of these works and we get in there and scan it. I went in there with my scanner and I began scanning a lot of these documents. And like you said, a lot of it is still untranslated. Of course. And so we have to get a hold of that. If you ever up in New York, let me know, and I'm gonna see if I can get up in there again because I had to get up in there in a roundabout way, but I managed to get up in there, and it's a very prestigious Jesuit library, and as we know, the Jesuits were heavily involved in reconcocting the histories because you notice how they have these universities in every nation, in China, all these nations. And so the thing was, we can't just be in some room somewhere and change the history and think that's going to change all over the world. We got to change it and then go to the actual locations and change it there as well.
Yeah. Well, here's the other thing. If you want to know where the ancient places were, the important ancient places, often all you have to do is follow the cathedrals because they were coming in being real slick. And they were following, they say, the ancient writing that says, I will build my house upon you, upon hell, and the gates should not prevail. And so they were coming in and they were finding the ancient places and building cathedrals on top of them. So you'll have the Black Church, the Church of the Black Christ and Escapulus, that's showing you the major place in Central America where Israel was. Israel was actually the worship of Isis, Ra, and El. That we already talked about who El was. They had to study. That's why you keep seeing those three pyramids all through Central America among the Mayas and others. Just the three pyramids. Those are the three deities. It's that trinity there. And so you have Central America going down to South America. That was the African nation called Israel. And so this church was the capital of Israel. It's showing you where that capital was in the northern area there. And the southern capital, they went and built the Black Church, the Church of the Black Christ at Cusco to show you where Jerusalem was. And then where Christ, the African called Christ, had major things happening in his life. They built cathedrals across South America on those places too. Follow the cathedrals and you will often find the ancient place. And
a lot of those cathedrals also, from what I heard, a lot of those cathedrals are actually masjids and temples that all they did was come and change the actual facade on it. The facade, throw a lot of stuff on it. And we thinking this, so-and-so mosque or so-and-so cathedral or so-and-so nunnery or whatever the case may be. Because a lot of people actually say, where is the Moorish architecture here, the ancient and the Moorish architecture here? I tell them it's all over the place. They just call so-and-so church and so-and-so. If you go here in New York City, the oldest synagogue in New York City, if you go there, it's on 54th Street, and it says, built in Moorish revival style. There's a big plaque on there. And I used to always send brothers to there. I had to go there, take pictures of myself, with the Moorish arches and everything. And it's the oldest synagogue here in New York City. And right around the time I was telling everybody to go check it out, I hear on the news coming up in the city, the synagogue is on fire. It's burning. It's on so forth. And I said, look at this. This is why we have to get this information and document this information now, because it's here. It's right in front of our face. Just now they found the ship. Right there, the African burial grounds where the World Trade Center was at, underneath the World Trade Center is a ship.
Right.
And they bringing out the timbers now, right adjacent to where the so-called African burial ground was at. And so stuff is coming to light left and right. You just got to be there, like you said, be in place, because it's like what happened with the National Geographic. Also, you aware that the city that they found sunk off the coast of Cuba, 2,200 feet below the surface, below sea level, right off the coast of Cuba. And National Geographic, I heard, was trying to get the rights to that. And the Russians and so on and so forth, but there's a city, and with their scanner and sonar, they were able to see pyramids, streets laid out, and everything.
Well, I tried to get with Dallas to go and find one rich discovery. Found out that we couldn't get to it. He does a lot of underwater archaeology, and the deal was that I had found what the ancient Africans called, can you hear me?
Yes, indeed.
Where the ancient Africans called Greece had this major naval battle, and so many of the Persian ships and Greek ships had been sunk in that battle. And I knew it was right off of the Yucatan Peninsula, which was ancient Greece. And so we were saying, okay, well, it's going to be. And every time that I would locate where what had occurred, it had been turned into a national preservation area where you could not go into. So you have to be aware that those things are done too. But imagine if it began 22,000 B.C. and they had engineering and architecture and sciences enough to build the greatest cities on the planet, and dams and sluices and other engineering devices even at that time, then you can imagine what's laying in the soil of the Americas, and there's no way that all of it can be, no way.
No way. And you know someplace else where a lot of it is hitting that too that I found out? On the golf courses. What they would do, a certain archaeological site, they will build private golf courses so we wouldn't have access to what's on those sites. And I found that out from a guy with, people used to with the metal detectors going around looking for, stuff underneath the dirt and all stuff like that. He told me up here in New York, we was up there and I was in the woods with him back there on the Humanoid Trail, and he told me what they found and how they found all these Spanish and Moorish coins. And he said, but the good stuff is on the golf course, but we can't get access to it. And that made me think. And the Empress was talking about the Washington, how a lot of the places where the mile was at, they built private golf courses. So it's another trick that they do to keep us off of these sites.
Yeah. Well, I think we have enough existing that is within view where we should be able to see what was going on and then restore that history and then go forward from there. I think it's important because I have seen young African-American kids with as many kids as I have and grandkids. I've seen them go into school and come out deflated with different things that happen, and especially during Black History Month. There are more black kids, there are more African-American kids that suffer mental anguish and mental long-lasting events during February because of the things that come out. You are a descendant of a slave. You are a slave. Your history begins there. And then you jump up and show, well, that might be true, but look how hard we are. We invented the red light. And then they shall match city for city and invention for invention. You don't have to put a red light up against a space shuttle to try to say how intelligent the blood is that runs through. Just like man, just like man is spirit, and man, meaning woman and man, has intellect. And if man has it, you have it. But there is such a huge racial argument going on that these kids need to know these things, and they have to see them. They have to see the images of the cities. They have to see the images of the people. They have to see Africa's own shift before it gets in. National Geographic knows that lesson. That's why they came up with the white face of King Tut and then put it on the magazine and then start sending a version of that magazine into the kids across the United States into the schools. So now King Tut is white. And Image has that kind of power. So now they're claiming ancient Egypt again. Even while all these brothers are debating and arguing on the corner about Kemet and all this, they are steadily working into the schools and putting the impressions in the youth. While the argument is going on the corner. So hopefully we can get that resolved.
That's the touch.
Yeah.
Islam.
Can
you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, Islam. One of the things, many of the brothers and sisters who might look at some of the locations can see some on a limited scale. So remember, a lot of the secret maps they hold in military documents, secret. And one of the exposures, which is very, very limited, is just the territory that's under the direct control of the Pacific Company, Pacific India Company, i.e. the U.S. Democracy Corporation, Foreign European Corporation called the U.S. In North America, they'll show you the exotic map in the King Alfred and Rex 84 plan of the Executive Order 11490. And that'll give you a lot of the ancient names, Morocco, Tunis, Algiers, Egypt, etc. Paris, like the brother said, and let you know that they're actually right over here. People looking elsewhere, and this is one of the great diversions that they've done. The other thing that must be recognized, again, and this will help a lot of people in their research, is the Secret Treaty of Verona. And the Secret Treaty of Verona and the Holy Alliance is back to where the brother was talking about of the reconstruction of history. Because like when they talk about the period of reconstruction here during the Civil War era, that's also under the authority of the Jesuits, where they were continuing the process of reconstructing history, not buildings, reconstructing history. Also, when we look at ISIS, we know that ISIS is really a sociology term for Aset. And so when we see Aset and ISIS, we know that we're still talking about the same thing. And the other deal, part of Egypt and ISIS temples, etc., and a lot of the old artifacts of the ancient ones is right there in the Grand Canyon, which is why they don't want people to know a lot of things that they're looking at in museums like King Tut, etc. A lot of that stuff came right from the Grand Canyon. Also, from caverns that they have right here in Philadelphia, that is a multiplicity of caverns underneath this city that they call Philadelphia. That's why a lot of times in certain areas when they're excavating or fixing streets, they'll put up security walls, but they will be solid instead of clear where people can see. So when they dig up old artifacts, that the people won't recognize that this city is much older by thousands of years than they think it is, etc. The other thing must also be understood is even when you see in City Hall, where it's laid out like a mosque, etc., and they call it Ionic and Moorish architecture, that the zodiac, which is the Moorish law that's right in the middle of the courtyard, they painted over it because it used to have brass lines on it that show navigational sister cities that are navigationally by angles, by compass, across the world, that the cities are actually matched in their layout to a star charts. The other deal is, yes, absolutely. And
I saw some of these road compasses on some of the maps, like you're talking about, some of the ancient maps, and they're showing lines going to cities that they were sending to in other parts of the world. You're right. I did see that.
Those old Portolano maps.
Right.
And I seen an old Portolano map that listed that over North America going into South America. It said Mexi, and then below that it said Cana, like Canaan.
Right. Let's see what Canaan is. Since I told you I was going to show you in each interview, I try to bring out one major thing to make that interview special. This one is Tyre. So you have Tyre. I told you that Venezuela has not been decoded to be Phoenician, but your VEN is your fin. That is your fin. That's your. So you say Venezuela is Venus. Phonice, Venus. It's Venezuela. And you know that because you know the cities in the area. And when I followed the ancient Roman narrative, not ancient Romans, the ancient Egyptian narrative, here is Ramses II having his major battle against the Keter. And black historians right now, well, they know very well about Abu Simbel and the other places that talks about this major battle, the major battle of Ramses, where he actually gets whooped. He gets this. It's called Keter, but they let the Europeans tell them that it's the Keter that they now banished people in above where Israel is now. You know that it's those people up in that area near Turkey, and here are the Keter, the Hittites. What they don't know is that's not who they were at all. These were Africans from West Africa, and when you go into the traditions of Mali, it will tell you it was founded by Sanji.
That's right. Keter, straight up.
Here are your Keter. Here are the Keter that Ramses is writing about. Here are your Keter and your Hittites. They're from West Africa, and they're warring in South America near the Orinoco River. That's where the battle happened. It took me a while to find Kadesh, and when I finally found it, there it was. And they had it coded by one letter, like they usually do, the one-letter rule. But there was Kadesh. Here's the battle. And so when Columbus came over, and he was right off of this river, he wasn't getting off of his ship, but he was out there and he was looking in, and he wrote in his journal and in his notes, he said, here's that river that comes out of paradise. Because it is that river. And it was coming out of paradise while Amun has built his empire up in Peru. This river starts up there, and it comes down. Here is your Kadesh. That is this major mountain that was called Sinai. So that's your Phoenix, that's your Phoenician, that's your Venezuela, that's your Kadesh, that's your Tyre, that's your Korah. You see the name Korah, C-O-R-O, on the city, has a dot right there next to the causeway going out to the island. You don't know that Korah is the other name that they use for Horus's mother. But when you look at the writings, there she is. There's Korah. So here is Horus's mother being called Korah. And her name is right there. Yes?
You know, what's interesting? Those new radar showing these straight lines laid out in the Amazon. Are you familiar with that? These lines and these cities laid out in the Amazon that they can see from the satellite images.
Yes.
And they have a thing
about
like
the irrigation plots that they use.
Right. They think they have a thing like South America, Amazon is nothing but pure dense jungle. It's been like that for millions of years. Where from the satellite they look down, they see straight lines laid out for hundreds of miles, irrigation canals, all the stuff right through with the satellite images showing that there's underneath all those trees and stuff, there's cities underneath there.
Absolutely, it's cities, and it's the kind of irrigation plotting that they were doing as well, where they would have plots of land and have the water running around it to water as well.
Right.
But I think her name was Eddie Makers or something years ago, and tried to tell her, I've got the Old Testament there in Brazil. I've got these Hebrews there. And she says, no, that couldn't be true. I've been studying this for all my life. You know, I have not found. Well, when you find it, you're not recognizing. I saw when you published that you found these things, and so the conversation was ended immediately. But it's the African present.
Yes.
They are there.
Yeah.
The Hebrews,
that's right.
The Africans called Hebrews are there. They're also in the Egyptian records, the African record called Egypt. You have two Egypts. When they lost that civil war in the Americas, when the African called Moses killed the Pharaoh, his own grandfather, step-grandfather, when he killed the Pharaoh, and had to flee from thieves in South America and went to the Yucatan. Eventually, he led the revolt of the Africans, the Civil War, down through Central America and into South America and then into West Africa, then came back in under Joshua, those Africans did, and started taking Egypt City in the Americas. Well, the ones that were being forced got their belongings, got in their ship, and went to East Africa. They couldn't go to West Africa because that was a base of the attack. So they went to East Africa and began building a second Egypt. That's where you got the two Egypts from. Archaeologists will tell you that we found a lot of monuments coming from 12th Dynasty downward. Yeah, because that's where I found Moses living off of the 12th Dynasty. He named the king.
And those guys that battle with the so-called Hyksos, the Hyksos, those are what they call West Africans now.
They were.
It was actually a confederation of what they call Canaanites, Hittites, so on and so forth. These were your so-called Hyksos, and what was interesting is that a lot of those Hyksos had actually Moorish, Moroccan, and Hebrew type names. Like, for instance, I have here in the 5th journal that I wrote a list of the Hyksos pharaohs, and one of the names of the pharaohs was Yaqub. And I don't know how many Moorish emperors that there was named Yaqub with that same name. You see names like Shalif. These were pharaohs during the 5th dynasty.
Yeah, well, all you have to do is like I say, I have so many brothers who they throw away the biblical text saying this is not for blacks and it was used to justify slavery and that kind of thing. Well, you can get black anything to justify almost anything, but you don't throw away those black records. You hold those and do what you can out of them. So in these records is this early history that the Egyptian priests were writing, and then it was put into these records too. You'll find a parallel history in the ancient Egyptian records and in the biblical record. It's the same record being put into different mediums. But it's telling you the history of the Moors. It's telling you about Moab and Amor or Amorites. So in Brazil, going from Amazon southward, you have Moab, the Moors, coming out of West Africa, as they said, and you have Amor, the Africans who were north of the Amazon River, but they're both saying that they came out of West Africa, where you have the king called Og, and you still have all over West Africa, Agba-Moshe and the Og and the Igbo and everybody else. They're telling you what these ancient writings are talking about. They're coming out of Africa. They're coming into the Americas, and those two histories are intertwined. You say Canaan, I say Ghana.
Ghana, same thing.
I'm telling you what the ancient writings were saying. You'll find Cano in West Africa. You'll find CAN over there. But I'm telling you what they were showing. And when you look at it, they say, well, we think the Amorites were actually, it looks like they're interchangeable with the name Canaanite, and that they are son out of Ham. Where if you know if you're going to use the word Ham to try to pull a curse on blacks, then give him the positive part of the spin as well, that his son is Canaan. So you have an African having an African, and here's Canaan, and so your Amorites are Canaan, and so your Africans are Amorites, and Moabite is coming out the same West African area. And to crap, that cursed crap that they came up with, trying to steal that black religion and make it theirs, and then curse the blacks when they could have it. But anyway, your more history, American history is there.
Islam. To back up, one of the things to back up what you're saying is in chapter 47 in the Quran, when it talks about the dividing of the land between Ham
and the son,
and the dividing of the land called the Ethiopian, not the divided land, which is the surveying, and also understanding that Hebrew or Ivri simply means those ancient ones, Canaanite, Moabite, who crossed the river. And it's really the same people. It just means those who crossed or who came from the other side of the river. That's all. Right. All the same people.
That's right.
It might get a little deeper than that, but they are those shepherd kings, the Hyksos, the shepherd kings. David and Saul and the rest of them, what did you think they were doing? These were shepherds. These are shepherd kings. These are African kings. And they're tending to their herders. These are your shepherd kings. So, but all I'm saying is, and when you hear David, understand that's an African king. When you hear Samuel, African king, I've got their images in South America. We're about to release them. These are all Africans, all of them. Their actual faces are carved on the stones in the Americas. They left their histories here with their names and their calendars attached, and their histories there.
And you mentioned Samuel and Sama. That was also one of the kingdoms connected with Ghana. This information is also found, as quiet as it's kept, in the Arabic sources. And they keep the Arabic sources secret because a lot of the Western scholars, they get their histories, especially dealing with West Africa, from the Arabic sources. And when I look in the Arabic sources, I found one of the records coming from Al-Yaqubi, it said, the posterity of Cush, Ben-Ham, son of Ham, and Canaan, son of Ham, are the Nuba, the Zanj, and the Habasha. So here we're talking about the Nubians. In the Arabic sources, I'm reading a quote. This is come from Al-Yaqubi from back then. They said the posterity of Cush, son of Ham, and Canaan, son of Ham, are the Nuba, the Zanj, and the Habasha. The kingdoms of the Habasha and the Sudan. It says here, quote, when the progeny of Noah dispersed from the country of Babylon, the descendants of Ham, son of Noah, went to the west and crossed the Pharat, the Euphrates, toward the setting sun. After they crossed the Nile of Egypt, Hyksos, the descendants of Cush, son of Ham, namely Habasha and the Sudan, split into two groups. One of these groups proceeded to the south between the east and the west. These were the Nuba, Buja, Habasha, and Zanj. The other group went to the west. These were the Zagawa, the Kwaku, the Mariam, the Miranda, the Korkor, and Ghana. And this is from the Arabic sources. And then it says the Sudan, who went to the west, traversed several countries and created several kingdoms. The first of the kingdoms is called that of Zagawa, who lived in a place called Canaan. Then there is the kingdom of Korkor, which is the greatest of the realms of the Sudan at that time, the most important and powerful. All of the kingdoms obey its king. Al-Korkor is the name of the town. Besides, there is another number of kingdoms which the rulers pay allegiance to him and acknowledge his sovereignty, although they are kings in their own lands. Among them is the kingdom of the Almira, which is an extensive realm. Its king has a town called Al-Hiyya. Also the kingdom of Murda, the kingdom of Zania, the kingdom of Rura, and the kingdom of Bakwat. All these are assigned to the kingdom of the Korkor, and then there is the kingdom of Ghana, whose king is very powerful. In his country are the gold mines, and under his authority are a number of kings. Among them are the kingdom of Am and the kingdom of Sama, S-A-M-A, Sama-Il. Gold is found in the whole of the country, and this is taken from a book called The Corpus of Early African Arabic Sources for West African History. So we just got to get it all. Yeah, we have to. We have got to get it all. Dig it up.
And let me give one clue. In so many instances, I was able to find the cities by ignoring the vowels and paying strict attention to the consonant. Because they would change the vowels, or, not knowing to put in the long vowel. It's not like everything that's different from antiquity was done on purpose. Some of it was done in ignorance. But pay attention to the consonant, and you will find amazing things. Now, I don't know many of those cities that you named, and that would take a relearning on my part, like it would take some to relearn what I found. But here's what I do know. I know that the sources I did use, like the ancient Egyptian sources, the ancient Greek sources, the sources that are in the Americas, the carvings on the stones in the Americas, and the ancient African histories called biblical will tell you that the Greeks, it will tell you where they came from. It will not call them Greek. It will tell you that there is a land called Argob, A-R-G-O-B, and ancient historians and modern ones know that the Greeks were called Argives before they were called Greeks. But it came from Argob. The ancient African writing is calling it Argob, and they tell you that in Argob, you're going to find these three major areas, one called M-A-H-L-I. That's Mali. Mali. Another one is G-U-N-I. That's Ghana. And it says the other one is an area named for Manasseh's boy, Jair. That's Niger and Nigeria. So you have West Africa there with their names like we have them right now in these ancient African texts, in the ancient biblical writing, telling you where they came from, telling you who they are. And when they came in to battle at Troy, this ancient African city that had been an ancient Egyptian city, now called Troy after that man. A lot of them stayed. Others came. Others found out about the Americas for the first time because of those more than 10 years of war. And now here's these huge migrations into the Americas again. And these who are settling on top of the old Egyptian cities are now eventually called Greeks, on their old pottery called blackware. They will show you every time. They will paint themselves every time with black paint. Here's your blackware. Here are your Greeks. They're coming out of West Africa, but we don't know that. So we're confused with terms, but it's sitting, a lot of it, right in front of our eyes, like that biblical record. We can't throw these records away.
No. But see, we got to get through that whitewashing that was done, and a lot of it was done during the period of the Renaissance. That's when they concocted what we know today as ancient Greek and ancient Rome never existed. All that was concocted during the Renaissance by those Renaissance artists and scholars, a lot of finance by the Medicis, and what they was doing was actually doing marble sculptures during the Renaissance. They would take it and bury it in their friend's backyard, break them off of it, dig it up 10 years later, and say, oh, look what we found from ancient Greece. This was
a lot of them will actually tell you that those sculptures were made during those times. Michelangelo and the other ones, they were making David and everybody else and showing you that they are. But they thought they had broken the black images when they had the iconoclastic period, the breaking of the sacred stones. The iconoclastic is the breaking, the classic of the icons. And you have to understand that ancient Central American word for black, that I-K, that Ike, that ick, here's your icon, your black stones, here's your breaking of the black stones, the black images, and especially the black Khan, because Khan is major. Khan is not only king, he is ancient Heracles of the Greeks. He is everywhere. He is a major man. There's an ancient one who was a son of Ammon, and then there's one who's named after him, who's actually living right before the time of King David. That's called Samson. That is your other Heracles. So here's Khan, and the people became named after him, the Heracleans. And so they're named after, he's that major. So even when Egypt fell, Egypt came into the Yucatan, into the now African cities called Greek cities on the Yucatan, and now they're called the Heraclidae, the Heracles. Named after this and Heracles. And didn't let you know that these Greeks were African as well. And so this Western civilization, this black civilization, goes back to Greek civilization, goes back to the African civilization that we now call Egypt. But it is.
The statue still exists to this day. I got over 50 images, 50 pictures of ancient Greeks with locks in their hair. I mean, straight up locks.
Yeah.
Look like a brother from today, straight up.
Yeah, well, it's there. It's there. But, you know, here's something else I saw.
And that's
even in antiquity, there were Africans who were doing like African Americans do today. When you look on Oprah's magazine, you might not recognize her, you know. And there are others who, when they make images of themselves, they make them in a different way than how they actually get. And you might not know that they have as much African descent in them as they do. And some of that was actually still going on in antiquity as well.
Yeah. A lot of that came too when we began mixing with those European women who were sold into the concubine, sold into the harems of all those.
No. See, I'm gonna have to be fair about all things. Now, here are Africans in the Americas. You're standing there in Central America, and here comes J-Lo. J-Lo walks by you, you're the king. Here comes J-Lo. And so you say, oh, no, she's not African. Turn right to the sharks. No, that's not happening. That's not happening. No. So they're bringing them in, and it's something a lot of us really don't talk about. But, you know, then the child coming out of that union between this African from Ghana and this J-Lo in Mexico is now the Pharaoh. You know, and you want to throw him away. You want to throw him, no, he's still the Pharaoh. You know, and he has both parents' blood in him, too. So we're going to have to get mature about those conversations.
That's right. Even look at Obama. I mean, or whatever. The main thing is that I speak about this because this is where I speak about in terms of it was the Moorish nobility that got bleached out first, because it was only the nobility that was able to afford these European women into their harems. It was like a fad amongst a lot of those nobles at that time to have, even in dealing with the so-called Indian caste system. The caste system, we always had a caste system amongst our ancient civilizations. It didn't have a racial element into it until these European women began being sold into the harems. And what happened was that the caste, the higher caste, was the one who had the European women in the house. They would mix it with them, and that led to those of that caste being born with lighter and lighter shades of skin. And then the rank and file brothers and sisters began to associate those lighter shades of skin with nobility. And that was the mistake.
No, not necessarily, because when you're living in the Americas, and we have to take it out of Libya, we have to take it out of Morocco, we have to take it out of Spain, and know that there was a history of Africans in the Americas too. And so when you have those shades of people who have also made it into the Americas, then you're going to have some people coming out who just like each other because they like each other. And it's not just the nobility. It'll be a brother that's a farmer down there, and there's a farmer next to him who's got a daughter who's looking pretty good to him. And so, you know, he's not just saying, well, you know, she's really not black enough. You know, no, that's not happening. We're going to have to be real and mature about this whole conversation.
But European women, but what I'm not even so much talking about those who are of Mongol type descent and so on and so forth. What I'm specifically speaking about is European women. You can have a situation where I'm living here and a farm next to me, and there's a European woman there.
Yeah, it is. They were coming over in trucks too.
Right. But I'm saying
they were coming over with brothers. A lot of times, there was a lot of people in the Americas. Japan was over here. China was over here. I mean,
that's right.
They were coming. Why do you think that this place was so valuable? Because all nations were coming to the Americas and bringing their ideas and their trades. I mean, they were meeting in Mexico. That was the meeting place. So Japan, China, all of those, they were coming, and the big markets were happening in Mexico. And then they were running that ship down the west side of the Americas, following that road down to South America to take the ship goods down there. So that became known as the Silk Road. So but those things are over here. So when
right along the lines of what you're saying about China, they had the Chinese came here in 500 BC, and in their annals, I got a quote in the second book that I wrote from their annals, and it said, quote, they said the natives are entirely black. They talk about scorched pygmy people, about men who use wooden arrows with iron points, And this is where the world comes in. It said, and the mountain of the eastern pass with the country of refined gentlemen. These people, the record relates, have clothing, caps or feathers, sashes and swords. They have tigers and panthers, which are gentle and tame. They eat millet and wild beasts and have numerous variety of birds. So here's the Chinese coming here in 500 BC, and they describe a Moors already here with feathers, sashes, swords, eating millet.
Yes.
Well, 500 BC. You have to know who's here. Again, now we're talking about if it's starting in about 22,000 BC when Amun is building his empire called Egypt, and of course they're here before him. But now we have those records coming out that he's leaving, and so we can really start looking at a narrative from about 22,000 BC coming down. Those were the records coming out of Heliopolis and the other priests and given to the later Africans called Greeks out of those record books. So we know that a lot is going on. We don't have to argue that anymore. We don't have to argue a black presence anymore. If you waste your time arguing a black presence, just you say it, you introduce it. And then if somebody wants to debate you on it, don't get tied up in that. We're way past that.
And what's interesting when it's showing that presence in terms of even the Moorish influence, and some of you may have heard this before, that coming from the diary of Columbus, there was a part there, and it says, quote, it said that when he sent Rodrigo de Zeres and Luis de Torres, who had lived with the Adelantado of Murcia and was a Jew and knew Hebrew, Chaldaic, and some Arabic, to see the king of Cuba in order to present the presents and to find out all that was necessary. It says, naturally, a man who knew Arabic and another who knew the language of Guinea, West Africa, as we heard before, were especially adapted to hold converse with the kings of the Indies. So here's the kings of the Indies, what they call the West Indies, and they're speaking Arabic. And Columbus is sending translators will speak Arabic. It says naturally because a person who knows how to speak Arabic in Guinea will be specially adapted to hold converse with the kings of the Indies, the West Indies. And so definitely, not only could we ascertain that there was a presence, but there was a specific Moorish Hebrew presence here in the Americas long before Columbus.
Yeah, people were here. Rome had come over here. Rome had established a Rome in Central America. You have to understand now, during the time of the African called Christ, Rome had gained power over South America where Jerusalem was. So we know that there is that presence there. Now, we have to be careful, too. Eventually, we will get to a place where we can use terms that everybody agree on and have the same emotion about, because Europa was an African woman, too. So, and Europe was in Central America there, but that was moved over into another place later, too. So, it's our turn. But, yeah, of course, there's a presence. I think that's what we've been saying all night, that there is this major 22,000 BC. Up until you finally booked those Africans in 1521 AD. Man. And city after city, you are Troy, you are Tyre, you are the Phoenicians, you are the Hebrews, you are the Moabites, the Amorites, the Greeks, the Mayans, the Aztecs. Come now.
You know who knows a little bit about this? Those Mormons. You know who knows a little bit about this history is those Mormons, and not the stuff that they put on the mass.
Records.
Right, they get that right, and this is the part they keep for themselves. They put the the fluffy stuff out there for the general masses, but they have actual records, that show exactly what we're speaking about right now. And this is why
I think we do too. I think you and I have them too. They're right in front of us. Well, we put our hands on. That's when Rock Scribe will show you how to put your hands on those records, because I didn't just write it. I gave you every source I used, so you could go and put your hands on those records and have it and put it in your house and have it for your kid. So that's a major thing. That's is footnoted. You know, it's there. So you can go and get it for yourself. Yeah, we don't have to listen to somebody else tell us what was here. We can go get it for ourselves now. But when I saw them, they said, yeah, there's a biblical presence in the Americas, but it happened after the things happened over on that side of the world, and then people came over in the Americas. No, the heck no, that ain't what happened. These Africans were having those events occur in the Americas. Egypt was of it. It's Egypt's history. The Old Testament is Egypt's history. Just because you take a nation don't mean the history stopped being written. They just kept writing. So now you are the king, you are the pharaoh. And so when I found David's mummy and Solomon's mummy, then they were among the pharaohs. But they can't find any of the biblical kings over in the Middle East. They can't even find the city of David. They can't find Solomon's temple, none of that. They've admitted that. And so they come out with a group of scholars that are now calling themselves minimalists, who says, no, the things that are written in the Old Testament did not occur. They were written centuries after the events that they try to say happened, you know, to establish a foundation for the later writings and the later events. No, that ain't what happened. You're digging in the wrong place. You're looking for the city of David where it was not built. It was built over here. That African built his city on top of or as a part of the Egyptian city that was already there that he took. He took Jerusalem. So he hadn't made that his city, the fortress on the north side. So when you read these ancient biblical writings, these black writings, they tell you that Zion, the city of Zion, the fortress of Zion, the city of David, is on the north side of the main city of Jerusalem. And yet when you look in the Middle East at that place now calling itself by that name, there they have a group of rocks on the way south of the main city saying, here's the city of David. Well, it wasn't until when Rocks came out, that they start digging on the north side by a wall, saying, well, we were on the wrong side. It's on the north side, and we think we done found it. No, it's already built up against the edge of that cliff. Jerusalem is against the edge of that cliff. You don't have any room to find a fortress on the north of that city. Because that was
they knew it all the time. They knew it all the time.
Some knew. You can't think that everybody knows. They don't. There are some people who have the knowledge, and there are most people do not. Most people don't know. Like most of us didn't know. You know, we don't know. You go to West Africa, this thing is playing most mass. They almost can, but they've lost a lot of the knowledge.
Yeah, and in the process of hiding it from us, they also themselves fall victim to the same, you know, hiding up information, you know. So yeah,
everybody doesn't know. There will be people that will be as offended with their religion as anybody else would, you know, coming out of that area that's now calling itself Israel. They'll be offended by the things that are said here. And then they'll run into somebody who will explain it to them out of their own. And say, yeah, that's pretty much what it was. You know, and you talk about Cush. Cush is Jerusalem. Cush is Jerusalem. That's why it's still all in Peru right now, Cusco. It's Cush.
2 pages. At 5. Yes. Brother Butler.
Yes, sir.
I want to take time to I want to open up some more lines, and I want you to tell the family how to go about getting this phenomenal book that we're talking about, so they can actually get the source information. How does one go about getting When Rocks Cry Out?
Well, just in case the bookstores didn't want to carry it, I took it through Amazon. So it's produced by Ingram, the largest book producer in the world. So you can go online anywhere. Now, until black bookstores start ordering it, you have to talk to them about getting it into them. But they get the same deal on that as they get for any other, the Urban Lit and any other kind of discount. It's through Ingram. You can go Amazon. You can go Barnes & Noble. Anybody selling online has this book. You talking to me? So you can get it from there. I don't sell it individually. I didn't want to do that anymore. I want it to be widely available.
We have 10 minutes remaining. I want to open up 2 lines for, we have 2 callers. I want, each caller to present their question and comment, and then allow the other caller to comment as well. We have 10 minutes left of the live feed. We will continue on the after the 11 o'clock hour. It's time with Mr. Butler. So let me open up 404-438.
It's a 1 and 2 8.
And we're going to open up 718-493 afterwards.
1-4. Peace. Islam, peace, everyone. Good evening. I had a question for the gentleman. It's pretty much my area of study also. And I wanted to know, how do you make the connection in beginning your research? Is there any American or European literature or early writings that might give this information up? 2, have you, in your findings, discovered Quetzalcoatl historically, fact or myth? And another thing also, did the Europeans lie in their writing of their quest here? Because it was also stated that they found a lot of this stuff abandoned when they got here. So where did the civilizations go?
Okay. I think when you asked me, are there other books that say the same thing as when rocks cry out, what it shows? No. I haven't seen any that shows those. That's why I had to use so many sources to find the different events and to give you all of those different sources. One of the criticisms I saw on Amazon from somebody who gave the book a 3, everybody else was giving it a 5. This one said, I really love the first 100 pages, but one of the criticisms is he keeps using these sources that nobody can hardly find. Well, that was the whole idea. If you're going to hide something, you don't put it where it's not available. So finding those hidden sources was one of the merits of this book. I haven't found another one that shows the things that this book shows. As for where did the people go, I think we can look across even modern landscapes and find cities that have been deserted. I do know also that wars can desert places. And when they went into Peru in 1500s to take Jerusalem there, that the Incas, the brothers called Incas, that some of us call Mandinkas or Mandinkas, when they left, they skied out because they had heard of the defeat in Mexico of that powerful set of armies there, and now they were coming into Peru, and those brothers left. They left and they went to Guyana. When you look at the 16th century records of what happened in South America, the Incas are no longer here. They left. And so they show you people now who said they're Incas. Those are not the Incas. These Incas were the big ears. They were the people that had them big. They were the brothers that might even be the Maasai. David had Maasai with him when he went and took that city. It could be that there's a continued Maasai presence that continued there as well. But they went to Guyana. They deserted a lot of cities to avoid being killed. Some of them did. I don't know what some of the others did.
Did you find anything in your research of them vacating the Americas and going into Cambodia and building that empire?
And that would be dated at what time, maybe?
No, between the 700 AD's times, these temples were dating, but I don't know how sure that is.
Okay, no, that makes sense because there's a big revolution going on in the Americas. That's when Heliopolis was destroyed. That's when that city called Teotihuacan was destroyed, and they show a lot of destruction in the 8th century AD in Central America. So there's something going on. There's that religion spreading and some other things happening, and it will drive people out. Now, once you know how to get around the planet in ships, then the whole planet is open to you. It would not be surprising to find brothers going to Cambodia, Hawaii, and anywhere else.
Indeed. Anything about the historical being or the focal deity of Quetzalcoatl?
Quetzalcoatl is Khonsu. That's why they kind of hid that name a little bit with Kunso. Is Kun. They spell it Kuet, but it's Kun. It's Kunso Waddle. He is Khonsu. He is your ancient Heracles. He is the ancient Khan of the Egyptians, who was the one that ancient Egypt wrote. When you look at those ancient African records, it says he lived at Memphis. It was the abode of Shu. That's what they call that area in Mexico, the abode of Shu, where Shu lives. Shu, of course, is Sun Shu or Sun Su. That's him. So that's why his presence is so major in Mexico there. That Horus has another name. His mother has another name. They have the same people. They have different names for them.
Yes, indeed. I've come across that information.
C-A-L, I believe, Console.
Yeah, I looked it up. I've seen a lot of information of everything that was in the East, the primal deities being worshipped, and evidence of them in the Americas, as far as the United States, Buddha, Isis, Osiris, the worship of all of those great deities here also. Do you have any information pertaining to the Mound Builder civilization?
No, that's what the brother was asking me before the show. He emailed that to me and asked me if I had additional information about the Mound Builders. And what I was doing was trying to do what the black scholars had not done. I wanted to follow the narrative. I didn't want to do assumptions and guesswork. I wanted to find what the ancient narrative said. So they came up into Mexico, and what I saw those ancient Africans write was that when they came up further into North America, that the cavalry, the bow and arrow cavalry in this land was so strong that they couldn't hold on to different places that they would settle, and so they kind of cut it off at Mexico. They did have cities here, kind of sparsely and set around, but those bow and arrow cavalries were strong, and they tried to say the horse came to Spain, but of course that's a lie. So, what they faced put a stop to a lot of things going into North America. I did see one account that they had reached the Washington, D.C. area, and they talked about the Potomac and the Chesapeake and that area and the city that was there. They talked about the island that we now call that New Orleans area. We don't know that's a large island. They call it Pantaleon, but it's an island where the Mississippi River splits and goes down to the Gulf. Those two branches on the land on that side, then it goes up to where that river splits, so it's running on that side, and on the south side, there's the Gulf. The land is an island. It's completely surrounded by water. And they wrote about this large island. Yeah, they wrote about it. And they wrote about what was going on there. We just have to see those ancient writings and know what we're talking about. You have to open our eyes and then perceive what they are.
Thank you. Thank you for your work. You are definitely loved for it. It's needed. Now is the time. And you have my support. And I'll be coming behind you pretty soon with a body of work also. And now, with that being said, we definitely know Cortez could not have been Quetzalcoatl if Quetzalcoatl was Khonsu. Thank you.
Oh, that was a lie. They didn't think that was
all right.
These brothers were very, very educated.
You got to do a party, so,
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's hear the gentleman call for. It's a great Griot session. I love to hear him speak, reminiscent of the great Ivan Van Sertima. Please.
All right, brother. I'm going to get out. Thank you all so much for the invitation, and we'll be looking to hear from you.
Right. Yes. Peace.
Yeah. 718-493, the brother Morris Intelligence. Peace. Hey.
Peace.
What's going on, Taj? I can't. That's the butt. What's going on? I owe you more than a soda.
Peace, brother.
What's going on? Yeah, man. The information you drop here and then the
confirmation in our other conversations that me and you had is just a lot of, confirmation. There's almost no way we could really repay you back, but just to pass it down to, the children and those who need it in our own families, because it closes up a lot of loopholes and even confirm a lot of things that Nobuju Ali was dropping in 1913.
Yes.
So, we have the more information and literature, but the confirmation and the visuals is what, is great. Through my own research, I came across the global history just by the names, alone. And even with the etymology, like Morocco, the Oxford etymologist says land of the far west, but not West Africa, it's the Western Hemisphere.
Yes.
Or the indigenous people of Cuba was known as the Guanahana Bays. So,
yes.
All this confirmation really will be solidified if we really just start to, piece it together. There was a few brothers that came afterwards, like CM Bay. He mentioned how Nexa means temple of the sun and moon.
Yes.
Which is basically what the sun and moon temple pyramids are in South America. So,
exactly.
Just the whole idea of we really just need to piece it together, understand that we're in a recent reconstruction period.
Yes, we need to do that, and that's why Drew Ali said for us not to get rid of our Bibles, because he's going to use it to reveal the real history and condemn the misrepresentation done by these people in this nation this day.
And that's why I've had to use the book to show who the Moabites were.
Exactly. Just like we mentioned in the Addis, amongst the Addis, that always get a Septuagint when you're studying the Bible. The Septuagint is the first so-called Greek translation because it still has a lot of keys in it. And why preachers don't tell the people in the church about the Septuagint.
Indeed.
Yes.
All right. So I just want to say, brother, thank you. That's all. You guys go.
Right on, brother. Thank you, too.
Thanks, brother. Peace.
Sorry.
Before we go to the next caller, I want to ask Mr. Butler, in his studies, what was he able to retrieve about the history of the Hero twins by way of the Papa Rob? Peace. What number was the brother calling from?
He was calling from a 972 number, I believe.
Yeah, he's, I don't see him in the call queue.
Oh, indeed.
Well, another that would be well to research where a lot of this history is hidden and codified is in the DAR, that's the Daughters of the American Revolution, which is patriarchy, which is actually a patriarchal organization, and that organization produces the manuals for citizenship that's used to measure anybody that comes in the Western Hemisphere. And of course, they got Dolly Madison's clothes in one of the rooms there, and all her clothes, and every time she dressed, she would wear a Moorish turban. Right there in Washington, D.C.
Indeed.
So
it was said that, I'm sorry, it was said in some of the studying that I did, but that the descendants of the concubines were actually, the daughters of the American Revolution were claiming descendancy and bloodline to the actual women that came out of the harems.
Yes, they do. That's why they only allow just those special ones. And as a matter of fact, the tradition has been that none of the Asiatics could speak in their halls, etc. Although they may have worked as cooks or whatever or not, they would not allow them to expose or speak in their hall. That has been a tradition.
Okay. Wow.
Yep. So, and then you also understand when they took the potentess Mataoka said Frank. And when they took her to Gravesend and threw her overboard, and then they came back and set up their aristocracy in Virginia, of course, then they rewrote history and called the Potentates Mataoka Pocahontas.
Pocahontas, exactly.
This is where they get the name or the word potentate that they use in Mason and the secret society. And also with John Adams, Benjamin Franklin, and Thomas Jefferson, with their titles, ministers plenipotentiary, which is used when they were setting up this government during the Treaty of Peace and Friendship between Morocco in the capitulation with the establishment of the United States, and when they brought them into government, and of course dealing with the Republic, and also why they hide the history where the praetors or presidents prior to George Washington, going back even to the Arthur St. Clair administration, 2 administrations before, and then back to John Hanson and the Moorish seal, or what is known as the Great Seal, which is used even to the day, but no president speaks under it.
Right.
Of course, it's the pyramid.
And that would be the pyramid.
Yes, sir.
Eye.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Okay. It's 11:07. We will be doing our meditation at 11:11 to 11:14. When we come back, I will be opening the lines of anybody that still has their hand up. We will continue the conversation. Taj, if you would stay with us, we would appreciate that.
I'm on the road now. I'm going to have to get home so I can plug the phone in before it drops on me.
Indeed. So we want to say thank you for the time spent, for the wisdom shared, and you know, as I spoke to Mr. Butler before we got on the conversation, I said, you know, the desire of this particular endeavor is for him to walk away, you know, knowing something, having had learned something, as well as having had taught something that would be useful.
And that's what we do. That's the real meaning of that we need to do, because every son is given a piece of the keys, and the foundation of the unity is that the sons come together and bind those keys together, the same principle of Horus, which is symbolized on the nationality card when Obadrali puts the 5 prophets on the nationality card in harmony with Horus, and the so-called the chopping up of Horus and spreading them around the world. It is the bringing them together back to the light that brings the light and makes it potent, which is really what's taking place now.
Indeed.
Definitely.
So, yes. I want to say thank you. And peace from 5 people too.
Yes. Peace.
Peace. Yes. It's 11:08. You want me to grab another open note call? Matter of fact, let me do it. 44587. Peace, God.
Peace.
Peace.
Peace to the guys tonight. Goodness gracious, man. What a beautiful show.
Yes, it was.
I don't know. I had to put the phone down for a second, but is the brother still on, or did he have to leave?
Yeah, he left. He's no longer with us.
Yes, I had a question for him, but I guess I have to catch him on another time there.
Yeah, we're gonna do a part 2. Gotta follow that up. Yeah, it's 11:09. It's 11:09. Why don't you set up this meditation, and we'll be back at 11:14, and we'll get into some further discussion about, what we was presented with on this evening.
Right. Okay. Well, we just went into Sagittarius. That's what we currently in, dealing with Jupiter and expansion, higher learning, philosophy, higher thought. So why don't we have our focus on this meditation be us expanding our minds, our consciousness, and our hearts in attunement with what the brother put forth tonight, so we get more in tone with this soil underneath our feet. We get more acquainted
and overstand it. So we know our land, our home, and our world. The land under our feet, we don't know anything about. We know more about the land across the waters than what's right underneath our nose. So let's ask for this wonderful being of earth to speak to us and give us the information needed so we can become more in tune with our environment.
Amen. Amen. See you back 11:14.